Hey everybody, it's me and the geese here at Half Moon. Oh, you know where I am? If you said Half Moon Lake, you're right. So Mayo Hospital's over there. Lakeview Cemetery's up the bluff over there. St. James is over there. Could have walked. A little tight on time today, so I didn't walk. But beautiful, beautiful day. Got to get back for a staff meeting. Got our great staff. I had last night. I was had a nice little surprise. Tuesdays are often an evening with council meetings. So I have pastoral council on second Tuesday. Third Tuesday is the finance council, and they are both very good, healthy councils, and they serve the parish well, and they're great to work with. And but also I love a free Tuesday evening. And so the first Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday, there's no meeting. I'm like, oh, sometimes they schedule something else. But last night I'm at the computer and doing emails. It's about 5:30, and there's this group called Jonah in St. James. Always been a good, healthy part of that. Joining our neighbors, advancing hope, and like kind of a social concerns ecumenical organization, and the religious leaders meet periodically. Christine's very dedicated and helpful and has a leadership role in that. And so there's this email that, Christine sends out an email. We're going to meet on the 11th, and then everybody writes back, I can go, I'll look forward to seeing you, or I can't go. Anyway, one of those responses was from the Unitarian pastor, Julianne. And I forget if she said she could or couldn't go, but the point is, she said, and you're all invited at 6 o'clock tonight. I'm going to present my new book that I co-authored with somebody about healing and living with chronic illness at the public library tonight at 6. Anyway, so I read that, and I looked at my watch. I go, I got nothing going. I'm going to go. Darn right. So got in the car and got there at like 5 to 6. And it was a lovely presentation. So I actually picked up a copy. Got them at Daughter's Books, a whole bunch of them. Mindful Living with Chronic Illness. Tend to your spirit. So, and so kind of a lot of analogies to the changing of seasons and living with chronic illness, letting go, learning to live with limitations, what's helpful for other people, what isn't helpful. I actually asked an audience question. I said, people that don't live with chronic illness, what should we know? Chronic pain or illness. And she said, I don't know, sometimes it can be hard if you're walking and people walk faster than you do and you can't keep up. Sometimes maybe you're just not able to lift something and nobody seems to notice. And so the bottom line was, look around you. Don't get too just self-absorbed, And always good advice, right? It reminded me of the story when it must have been in 8th grade. I think it was after I had a knee surgery, my first knee surgery. And it was like, we had a neighbor lady. I feel like I missed out. Their children were older, so I didn't really know them. But there was Johnny Neppel's house, then there was our house, and Johnny Neppel and I were great friends, and we were the same age and everything. Played basketball, and in between us was this other house, and they were. I never got to know them that well. But they were a Jewish family. I knew they were a Jewish family, and I wish I'd kind of known them better. Learned to, had some more firsthand experience there. In any event, I've been blessed to know a lot of Jewish people since. Some in Israel, which is great. But so the point is, we were going to take this ride, and Johnny's mom was driving, and there were one or two of us kids in the back. And it must have been kind of a small car, maybe. They had a GMC Pacer, and Johnny's family did when I was a kid. Maybe it was that car. But I just had the surgery. I think I was probably pretty spoiled. Tommy's hurting, or Tommy needs more leg room. Tommy had a knee surgery, so he's got to have this. And there was a reason for it, though, because it really hurt. if my knee was scrunched up. Anyway, so we're going to go. I think we drove to Green Bay or something. I'm not sure. And I didn't get the front seat because this Betty went along who had a real bad back, I guess. And man, so my legs were like, sitting in the back of this car, like, my legs scrunched up like that. And it's just like, I still remember it was just extraordinarily painful. And I think what made it even more painful is that my attitude was so poor. I was very resentful. And I knew it would be bad form to say, could Betty sit in the back so I could stretch out my leg? And usually you can maneuver your leg somehow so you can stretch out a little bit, like stand up or sit sideways. But I don't know. I just remember she got the front seat. I thought, why did she get the front seat? Because I'm in a lot of pain. And I bet you she was in a lot of pain, or even more pain, or probably didn't want to go, or maybe we were only going because she was able to go, or anyway, I was oblivious to how this might be helping her. I just knew that it was hurting me, and those are kind of embarrassing memories to have. The less we can be self-absorbed, the better off we are to live in the communion. Sometimes it's sharing the pain. It's that great line from the Eucharistic prayer that I sometimes use, that we go sharing each other's grief and pain, as well as their joy and their hope. We may go forward together along the way of your kingdom, oh God. Anyway, so chronic. I didn't read it yet, but she read from it. It's just really good stuff, I thought. So I got a bunch of parish news. I read a really interesting article about the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration and an act of justice that they did at some sacrifice, that's a little teaser for you. Well, I'll tease you further. I won't get into the whole thing till the end, but I thought before these chats I go online and I look at different Catholic websites or oddities on the AP Newswire or something to interest you. And National Catholic Reporter had a story about the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, which is a lacrosse group, and maybe some of them taught you school. They taught at Newman High School, where I went. But the headline was, in act of reparation, Franciscan Sisters return land to Chippewa Indians in Wisconsin. This is a national publication. And I'm like, oh, Wisconsin, I got to read that. So I did, and I'll tell you about it after Parish News. Okay, Spain. So we'll see if we can pull this off. I got a lot of initial interest. I don't know if that interest will lead to people actually wanting to go. But it's up now. If you visit our Facebook page and website, I think there's a poster describing the April 21st, April 30th pilgrimage to Portugal and to north and western Spain. It'll include a visit to Fatima, and then for me, the crown jewel is to get up to Santiago de Compostela. Santiago is the Spanish name for St. James the Greater, and where his bones are, and just pilgrims. It's the third most visited pilgrim site, Christian pilgrim site in the history of the church. 1 is Holy Land, 2 is Rome, 3 is Santiago de Compostela. And so they're called there's like a phrase, the great Christian pilgrim sites. I don't think it's the 3 great places. So anyway, so that's available. You can talk to me. You can also just look at the poster and go on to that website and sign up as well. It's administered by a group called Unitours. They specialize in Catholic pilgrimages. Church communion process. So I know it's been kind of messy. We're still trying to nail it down. We talk about it for forever at staff meetings. At this past weekend, I had to ask people to kind of move around because it was more crowded. People came to light a candle for those who had died, to represent their lives within the sacred space in our prayer, which, by the way, was a lovely weekend liturgy. Thanks for all who came and participated. So glad that a lot of families of people who did pass from this world to the next in the last 12 months were able to come up. And you can see the grief is still fresh on a lot of people. And there's always some people, and I kind of wish I'd known, but they're parishioners, and they look very sad. They're grieving very hard. And, their parents or their sister or brother in Sheboygan, died a month ago. And we don't know that. It's just like we don't always know who's suffering with chronic pain. We don't always know who's just got fresh grief in their heart, right? So, to be gentle and kind with one another is always a good rule of thumb. As Sister Michaela, Benedictine, always would say, take gentle care when she would say goodbye. So anyway, communion, at 10 o'clock Mass, I think partly because I think a lot of the religious ed students are going there, which is fantastic, because they have an option this year of having classes on Sunday morning, and not just Wednesday evenings, so Sunday or Wednesday. And I think, then a lot of them go to church with their families afterwards, which is great. But I don't know if you've noticed, but 10 o'clock Mass has been pretty full. So there's always good spots up in the balcony, which has been renovated for seating now, or there's always more room up front, Second row has been a frustration for some because there's no kneelers in the second row. When we reconfigured things, we were short some kneelers, I guess. But they're on their way. I hope before Advent they'll get here. They keep saying, early October, mid-October, and now it's like mid-November. There was some cloth or something that wasn't available in the supply chain, but know that we're working on it. Some things we can't control, and it'll happen. And if it doesn't, it will. But worst case scenario isn't awful. We'll keep working on it until. I already told about Betty. I started this talk before that I got so lost my train of thought. I started over, so I'm not sure if I. So, just be patient with each other when you come up for communion. I know, like last time, because it was the All Souls Mass, I invited some people to come sit in the front, and so it was a little. Usually, the second communion minister will be against the pew, facing like perpendicular to me, and it just didn't work because of where the wheelchairs were. So I asked her to come back. So then I was there. Then she was on my left, and I think people didn't see her, so they kept coming to me and not her. And then I would stop and say, "You can all go over here." And I don't know how that feels to people. It's not like I'm trying to shoo them away from me, but I just want to, want the line to keep moving efficiently. So. Anyway, so I think we'll go back when that space is empty, so to have the ministers perpendicular to each other, and the main thing is you keep the hunger in your heart, and you come and you have charity in your heart, and are fed. So that's the idea. We'll get through it. We'll get more familiar as time goes on. Good. So what else we got here? We got a funeral seminar coming up. So last year we had it. People seem to like it. Nick is always so well spoken. He can talk about music and funeral planning. And I think it's 1 o'clock on November 13th, a Thursday, so a week from tomorrow. Did I talk about trivia night? I don't think I did. I think it was in the one that I started and then stopped. But trivia night's the 15th. It's Saturday, and we have. They just put a lot of love and work into that. Cerny's, they have really good questions, and then Sherry gets these fun prizes. And I don't know if it's a potluck. It probably is a potluck, and then I'm embarrassed to say I don't bring anything, but I do throw in the basket. So, and speaking of food, thanks for everybody bringing the food in. We know that this government shutdown threatens people without food, or that rely on SNAP and all. That's a big deal to not be able to feed our people. It just seems kind of gross, really, that they're pawns in a game of chicken. So a lot of people have stepped up and increased their donations to the food pantry in cash or in kind. Kermit and Mary came and picked up a whole bunch of food and took it over to St. Francis Food Pantry yesterday or the day before. And so we thank them for that. Everybody who brought some food in. But the trivia contest, so it has good food, and then they collect donations, and the money goes to a fund so that our youth who post-confirmation remain active in the parish get a little gift if they go on to further education, tech school or college. Little gift from St. James, so it's nice. Christine was gone last week, right? She's back in good form, and I thought it was great. A lot of people missed her, Not that I'm surprised. I missed her too. She's a lovely part of our staff, but just thought I'd pass on. I really take a lot of joy in seeing how much and how well liked our staff is by people in the parish, and that's across the board. Everybody we have working for us, so it's so great. Clocks. Hope you moved your clocks back. I think it's good. I visited the teachers' lounge last week or this week, and they were all like sleepy, and I said, sleepy. We got an extra hour last week, and we're supposed to be less sleepy this week. But I think what happens, it's probably true if you're single or you're really young, but I think when you're a mom, so this was like a mom I was talking to, and I think your parent, I think the kids still want to stay up late, but you're thinking, oh my gosh, my body says it's 11 o'clock. I gotta, Anyway, so hopefully we'll all adjust to the time change. It's a drag as far as bike riding and stuff, because it gets dark so early. That's the way it goes. Let's see. Well, the other thing on church communion that has been sort of a bugaboo is I really do want people to come to the altar if they can. Obviously, if it's a lot of work just getting in church and you got the walker or the wheelchair and it's hard to come up, that's why our communion minister goes out with the Eucharist to give it to you, whether you're in the gathering space or in the back of church. But basically, if you're able, there's meaning, I think, in coming, being part of the procession. That's the stream of faith that comes to the altar to be fed and filled with the life of God. So I guess it's gotten a little testy sometimes with folks saying, the usher say, please, we want you to come up, and they'd rather not come up. And maybe there's part of the story that we don't know. Again, let's try to be patient and gentle with each other, but that's why I asked you to come up, and I think it's meaningful, and we'd like to see you, Composting is fun. The school started composting, and now I have a place to take my squash peels and things like that, which is great. In the office too. So I think Louise was a big pusher behind that, so it was mainly a school lunch thing, but now I can take advantage of it too. Carry my little bucket of organic materials over to school and dump it in the bin. The funeral seminar, I think I mentioned it, but I don't know what else to say about it, so it'd be good. Trivia night. Advent sale. So I just got 6 texts from Jerusalem from Alfred, who runs the St. Francis store in the old city of Jerusalem, and he's going to send us some great things that we can sell, because he has basically no business with the state of Israel right now, and the war and all that stuff. Tourists aren't really going, or pilgrims. Did I mention Spain? Did I just start with? I think I just started with this. So I'm sorry. I'm just gonna maybe repeat myself, but anyway, we're gonna start selling those things with Advent. So the Saturday, the weekend after Thanksgiving, we'll have our Holy Land goods, and it goes to a really good cause. Gives a little cash to people that really don't have a cash, especially the large community in Bethlehem, where we get most of the stuff. People with intellectual disabilities. I think the Writers News did a video story. I hope I can find that and see that and post that. But Spain, I think I led with Spain before I cut it out, and now I'll just mention it again. So because I had to cancel the Holy Land trip in February, I scheduled a different pilgrimage. I always want to get over to the Santiago de Compostela. In Spanish, Santiago means St. James the Greater. It's where his bones are laid. So that'd be a great pilgrimage for people of St. James, and anyone else. And we're going to see Fatima on the way, Mary's appearances in 1917 in Fatima, Avila, Madrid. So April 21 till April 30th. And I got it up on Facebook. I think Christine said she put it up on the website. And it's through Unitours. I'm not actually collecting any money for this. You do it all through them. And so we'll see how that goes. I'll be promoting that in the weeks ahead. You get a $50 discount if you sign up before December. Okay, Pope Leo, can you imagine? So at a homily a couple of weeks ago, I talked about my former, still a friend, but I haven't seen him in 30 years, Larry Dowling, priest for Chicago, and how he was part of a prayer vigil at the detention center in Broadview, Illinois, the ICE Center. And his hope was he could take communion into the detainees, and he was denied access. It wasn't just him, several other priests, and just a lot of people. Well, Pope Leo got wind of this, and he said he begged the government to, I don't think he's meddling. I read the article, I don't know how. He basically said, people should be allowed to have communion when they're in jail. It's a religious freedom issue. So I don't think he was directing it right to the ICE officer or whatever. But I thought, wow, wouldn't that be something if you're taking some chances as a person and you're praying and you're being rejected. You have the Eucharist there outside the prison fence, and then all of a sudden your cause is affirmed by the Pope. It's like, whoa! I guess we're doing okay here. Let's keep at it. So that was pretty cool. But it was just yesterday, Diego, a bishop from Chicago, not the Archbishop, not Cardinal Supich, but Bishop Maldonado. He went, and he was denied as well. So I don't know what's going on there. But some more geese. Okay, so here's the story that that diaper giveaway, Catholic Charities. Thursday the 13th, so it's the same day as the funeral seminar. You could go give away diapers. You could receive diapers. I think they'll have the diapers and the baby wipes, and then you could go and get some for free. You don't have to present any credentials that you're in financial need or anything. From 9 till 11 a.m. And I said, well, okay, wonder where that is. And it said 318 Fulton. I'm like, okay, 318 Fulton. So I did a Google Maps. 318 Fulton is St. Patrick's. So I'm like, okay, why did it say St. Patrick's? I guess. But who am I to complain? It's a great thing they're doing. They're giving away diapers and baby wipes. So if you know anybody who could use them, by all means. Okay. I think that's most of my parish news. So I read this article. Did I tell you that an act of is, again, I'm sorry if I'm repetitive, but now it's starting to glow. It said northwest on my weather, my weather app, but it's southwest, so now it's blowing. Can you hear okay? I don't know. Sorry. It's pretty calm. Anyway, so I go through these magazines and see if there's anything interesting church news I can share on the chat, right? And I saw this headline: in act of reparation, Franciscan sisters return land to Chippewa Indians in Wisconsin. This is a national newspaper. This isn't like a Wisconsin paper, diocesan. And it's about Wisconsin and the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. They're based in La Crosse. And they taught me high school. So it's like, this is my group. And there they are. And so I read about it, and apparently, so they had some land since 1966 that they bought from some previous owner, white folks basically, and for 30 grand, and they developed it over time into like a retreat center, a spirituality center. And so I'm like, well, where in Wisconsin is that? And so it's near Arbor Vitae. And it's a familiar term, when you're from Eau Claire and Chippewa Falls, you sort of know, I don't know, Birchwood and Hayward and Spooner and Minong, places just. if you're from Wausau, you know Tomahawk, Minocqua, Arbor Vitae, Eagle River, Hazelhurst, and all these places. Anyway, so Arbor Vitae is just a little northeast of Woodruff and Minocqua, and so I'm like, oh, they have this land, and they basically returned it to there's an Indian reservation there, but I don't know how Indian law works, but it's just in our law that they have to, and it's like, but they said there's all this there's beautiful lakes all there, and they have this place on Trout Lake, and 2 acres, like a retreat center, I said, and they said that even though it's like within this reservation area, that all the lakefront properties are actually owned by white people. So they can't even really access their own lakes on their reservation, which doesn't seem right? And it's all because of an 1842 treaty, which was basically a land grab, It sounds terrible. I guess it was reviewed by courts in 1976, and they said it was an unconscionable treaty that was basically just like stealing their land. So anyway, these Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, they've done a lot of education about land and Indian affairs and stewardship of the earth, and they decided to return it. And so it's estimated at $2.6 million, the property, and they sold it for $30,000, which is what they paid in 1966. And had a couple quotes here. Sister Sue Ernster is like I think she's the abbess or head of the order. So it's not only letting go. She thought it was kind of sad. A lot of the sisters had really wonderful memories of going up there and having retreats and prayer times, and it's such a beautiful piece of property. And it's not only the letting go, there's also the rejoicing of how we can break the system that created the trauma and the division between us and the original caretakers of the land. So you can imagine it's something that you might want to really cling to, because we didn't steal it from anybody, but it's ours now, and we love it so much. But then they look back at the historical roots and the history of the place, and they say it really isn't ours. They really had a deep injustice, and they say it was reparation, not just for the sale of the taking of that land, but also for the colonization of Native Americans and those residential schools that were in the new. I mean, you heard about those, but a lot of Catholic schools were put on reservations, and the goal was to kind of take the Indian out of them and give them white values and kind of cultural violence, So anyway, they met and discerned over a period of years and said, we're gonna let this go. And the tribal president, his name's John Johnson Jr., he said, the return of this land represents more than the restoration of land. It is the restoration of balance, dignity, our sacred connection to the places where our ancestors walked. I was just really impressed. And then I thought, Trout Lake, it's on Trout Lake. And I'm not sure, I'll just have to process this for a while. The Trout Lake, in high school, I was on the golf team. And we played at Trout Lake. And when on Google Maps, I could see Trout Lake Country Club. There was this one crazy par 5 that looked like a horseshoe. You had to go around the woods, and I saw it on the map. And I thought, I'll be darned. I'm very, like a very white, privileged child on a golf team in high school, and I'm going up to play golf on this country club that was Native American land. And what does that mean? What does that mean? What's my responsibility in all this, How do we live our lives in harmony with God, whose children we all are? Clearly I've taken advantage, and I've had some things that I enjoyed in life that I've only been able to because of some past injustices, that I have no idea of and still don't really understand. Anyway, so with that provocative thought, at least to me, I bid you farewell. I hope you have a good day. Give you a good look. Maybe the geese will sing for us. Geese, sing a song. They all have their butts in the air, trying to feed off the bottom. Honk! Honk! God bless the geese. God bless this earth and its beauty. Maybe learn to live on it together and take care of it, that people may thrive, that the poorest among us may have enough food, and know the joy of being human that so many of us take for granted. God bless you, everybody.